Hello and welcome back to Savvy Living, where we not only reveal amazing travel experiences and feature fabulous gifts and gets, we also connect with insightful guests on informative and timely topics. So on that note, right now we'll be connecting with crisis management expert Oscar Frasier, who's co-owner of End Demand Consulting. Oscar's expertise lies with designing and implementing leading-edge techniques helping federal government agencies, heads of state, corporations, and entrepreneurial small businesses maneuver through profoundly difficult circumstances. This is all quite relevant right now, so I'm pleased to connect with him today. Hello, Oscar. Welcome to Savvy Living.
Hello. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
So first, let me ask you, how did you actually get into this line of work?
Problem solving and crisis management has always been something that I've been called to do. In the beginning of my career, about a little bit over 20 years ago now, I started off in program management, Lean and Six Sigma, those sort of fun areas, if you will. But I always found myself right back at square one, which is essentially crisis management, problem solving. How do you get things resolved?
So you and your wife, Kaya, who's CEO of your firm, are called the Mr. and Mrs. Smith of Crisis Management. So how did you guys earn that title?
Well, first and foremost, we're certainly not shooting back and forth the room at each other. But in short, we get that name essentially for as far as how we work together. A lot of people always ask us what's the secret sauce, if you will, to how we interact and how we behave, if you will, behind closed doors whenever people are trying to figure out how we problem solve. One of the things that we actually do that we find interesting is whenever we meet with a new group of people, a new team, a new problem-solving project, essentially what we are doing is we're kind of taking that team through four areas. And that is what some folks have probably heard before, which is we first form the group, then there's some storming, then there's finally normalizing, and then eventually we are finally performing. And the way in which Kaya and I have learned how to navigate that is essentially by way of learning our own lanes. I stay in my lane on the more strategic data analytics side, and Kaya stays in her lane, which is essentially more of the theoretical, graphic, big picture side of the house as well.
So often in life, we're taught that gaining trust is everything, but you actually say that isn't enough for businesses today. So why is this the case?
Years ago, it was easy to walk into a room and simply by way of the alphabet soup behind your name, the MBA, the Lean Six Sigma black belt, et cetera, to gain instant validity. Well, now with some of the, especially with the pandemic happening and some of the crises that we've encountered over the years, it's a different kind of trust factor that people are looking for. Individuals in a room when you're first walking in now, they want to understand, do you get it? Are you going through the same things that they're going through? And are you relatable, right? So building trust now is a lot less about all the degrees and certifications that you have. People want to understand that you actually care and that you can empathize with what they're actually going through.
Okay, so in drilling this down, what role does crisis management play in our lives? And are there any tools that our viewers can apply to their own situations?
So we all understand crisis management a lot better now, don't we? If we think about the things happening between the pandemic and just on the political forefront, there are several things that I think we all can identify a lot more with crisis management. One of the things that we do over at End Demand Consulting as it pertains to crisis management is that we look at the actual bigger picture, right? What that means is, how do you anticipate a crisis before it happens? And while it's happening, what do you communicate to the masses to get them to move in a direction that you need them to move in? And then how do you communicate with them after the actual crisis? So for individuals at home watching this, one of the things that we do is essentially, we're always keyed into news stations and world news and understanding how something that may be happening thousands of miles away from here today, what does that look like for us tomorrow? And I think that those are certainly ways to help as those that may be watching the show.
So as you just pointed out, America has been in a bit of turmoil of late. So what's the best piece of crisis management advice for business leaders right now?
Data is critical. The biggest piece of advice I can give you is data is critical. The other aspect and the caveat to that is it's meaningless if people don't trust you. So here's how we kind of blend all this together. When you think about earlier when I was mentioning how the trust factor now has to be relatable, people have to understand that you're going through the same things that they're going through. That's what you lead with. You lead with the fact that, listen, America, I too am going through the same things that you're going through. Then you start to illustrate the data. You explain to the masses, here's the big data at a macro level. But most importantly, for those of us that are going through the same thing, this is what this means to you at the household micro level. That is absolutely critical in the times that we're in right now.
So how about yourself? What's ahead for you and your firm this year?
To start focusing a little bit more domestically right here in the United States. We have a side of our organization or an arm of our organization that is technology driven. And we are focused on artificial intelligence and data analytics. Specifically, what we'd like to be able to focus on is something called sentiment analysis. What that will do for crisis management is we will be able to go out and understand what's happening on the web, what's happening on social media forefronts, and based on some of the communications and what's being talked about, what can we anticipate that could potentially cause chaos, that can potentially cause crisis scenarios to happen, and hopefully we can get in front of those things, warn the right federal spaces and the right federal agencies, so that way we may be able to to prevent some of the crises from occurring here domestically.
Such compelling information, Oscar. Thank you so much for sharing it with us today on Savvy Living.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here.
And for more information on Oscar and End Demand Consulting, just go to enddemandconsulting.com.